Imagine coming up with a great idea only to find out it's already being sold.
Don't be discouraged if you come up with an idea and you find out maybe
Someone else.
came up with the idea already, because you're competing against a lot of smart people in the world and they're working very hard.
But here's how you should react. Join Panita, where we talk on the Techful Founder podcast. Empower your startup journey as a non-technical founder with actionable insights of successful entrepreneurs. You're in for a treat today. The man you're about to hear from is the brains behind 200 patents. Yes, you heard that right, 200. The innovators who's been shaking up the intellectual property world and helping companies navigate the complex landscape of IP. Sam, welcome to the show. Can you explain the basics of intellectual property, why it is crucial for organizations to understand it in the context of innovation?
Sure. So intellectual property is basically your protection for all your hard work. Without intellectual property, without some way to protect your work, your effort, your intellectual effort, anybody could just take it and use it. And so there'd be no motivation for creativity because it would be taken immediately. And in some cases, it might seem easy to do something, but in other cases, it could take years of work. So therefore, there was motivation to say, we want to motivate people to be innovative. And in order to reward them for that hard work, we need to provide them some sort of protection.
Definitely.
Intellectual property provides that protection in a number of different forms.
So, in your experience, what are some common risks that organizations face regarding their innovations, and how can they proactively address these risks?
The important thing with innovation is very fluid, very mobile, right? And so if you take, for example, trade secrets and how you make something, you don't protect it in some way, then obviously somebody could share it with somebody else and then it'd be gone and you can't pull it back. A lot of things that we talk about where the genie's out, gone. That's an important piece. If it's something that the people can see, the public can see, if you have a new way in which to make a widget or something like that, again, it's out there, everybody can see it. So you'd want to have some sort of patent design protection on that product to make sure that you kept that competitive advantage as long as possible. Obviously, patents run out, so you will lose it, but you will have it for a long time or some period of time.
So, what do you think is the line between taking fast action as an entrepreneur and also protecting your intellectual property? Because there are some investors that do talk about they do not want to sign your NDA. They just want to hear the idea because they don't have time to sign it.
No, they say they don't have time. Obviously, they have time.
Yeah.
They just don't want to be encumbered by that. And that's a very hard problem. But that's where, to the extent you can, I'm a big believer in provisional patents. For a startup, it's hard to afford a full-fledged patent. There is risk, and I won't deny it. I'm sure a lot of patent attorneys out there probably say, whoa, you have to have patent. You don't have anything if you just do provisional. But this is all balance. Think of it as insurance. And so I would tell anybody, to the extent you can, you want to try and protect what you have when you go in and talk to investors or maybe your suppliers or maybe your customers. Try to protect whatever you can. Obviously, you can't always protect it perfectly. There's a lag. The patent system is not a fast system. It's a long system. So there's a lag. But I think people do become aware. If you come into a meeting and say, look, I'm going to talk to you about this information and I have a pending filing on it, I think people take note of that. So that's a way you can protect yourself. It's not perfect. Obviously, a patent isn't going to cover everything, or a copyright's not going to cover everything. Maybe you need to disclose to your potential investor, but it's at least something to give you some sort of protection. So I'd encourage that. Obviously, you'd want to the extent you can, keep confidentiality with NDA. You try and do that. But I've definitely heard a lot of people say the VC or the investor is just not interested.
Yeah, I do like that though, like provisional patents, because even if it's in process, it would protect you more than if you did not. Yeah.
And again, this is a spectrum, right? In terms of quality. And that's what the patent attorney would say. And I think the patent attorney would be, you can file provisional on your own. Now, the quality of protection you get is questionable, right? But again, as a small entity, it's only maybe $150. So it's very cheap. There's no reason why you can't do it. And keep in mind that when you file provisional, if you don't follow through with it, that never becomes public. So you haven't disclosed your secrets to anybody. If you just let it expires, it never goes public. Obviously, if you do then follow up with a non-provisional from that, it will get published. That's what patents are about. But at that point, you're trying to protect it. So I think a lot of people also are confused about that as, hey, if I file provisional, everybody's going to know. And if I didn't go for a patent, I'd give it away. No, that's not the case.
Mm. So with over 200 patents to your name, what key insights can you share about the patent application process that many inventors may overlook?
The patent process is quite interesting. I'll provide you a couple of things that are important to understand. And we provide with PQAI, patent quality, artificial intelligence. It's an open source patent prior art search tool that's available. If you go to projectpq.ai, you can use it for free to do prior art searching. I tell people, make sure you really know the area in which you're inventing, because you're competing against a lot of smart people in the world, right? And they're working very hard, so you need to work very hard at thinking about your idea. I know there's a tendency to say, hey, I just came up with this. Nobody else came up with it, but there's a lot of smart people out there. Do some searching. That's why I founded PQAI, because I wanted to have a tool, advanced tool for inventors to figure out if their idea is novel. It is hard to know if your idea is novel, and it's embarrassing. So I have a lot of ideas, and a lot of them were not novel, and it's embarrassing if I come to you and I say, I got this great idea. Sam, people doing it. It's being sold today. I go here, you can see it. Yeah, I look stupid then. I encourage inventors to go searching. It's hard, and be careful not to be discouraged. I tell people, if you go searching, and again, it doesn't have to be in patents. With PQAI, we do patents and non-patent literature, because it's not a question of has somebody else patented it. Has anybody disclosed it? So there's a big difference here. Has anybody shared it with the public? So I tell people, don't be discouraged. If you come up with an idea and you look and you find out maybe you came up with the idea already, I shouldn't be discouraged. I should be like, great, I'm on the right track. Look at you came up with the idea. Maybe you've even patented it. Great, I must be on the right track. I'm just a little slow. I need to run faster. And then I always tell people, use this as an opportunity. Let me look at what you patented and think, okay, what would be the next generation of that? What did you leave out of that? And then I could build off of that, because that's what patents are about. It's about sharing the knowledge and people building on that knowledge. So that's what I tell people is don't get discouraged. Use it as an encouragement to keep on inventing.
Definitely. I think someone said that if no one is doing your ideas, either you're on the right track or you're completely off track.
Yeah. I think you definitely have to challenge yourself and ask yourself, okay, if nobody thought of this, maybe there's a reason why. Maybe there's a better solution out there, or maybe there's no need for this. That is a very good point. Yes, you need to think about that.
Yeah. So how can companies shift their perspectives on IP from traditional support role to a strategic driver of business success?
That's a very good question, because the problem is a lot of people, a lot of corporations get complacent. I tell people innovation culture and all that, it's like exercise. And everybody's like, yeah, Sam, I'm good with exercise. Today, I'm just going to sit on the couch, watch the TV. If I need to, I can get off this couch and I can run. Don't worry, I can do it. It's like, you can't do it. You need to exercise to be ready to run. And your competition might be exercising too, so you really need to be ready. So I tell people you need to innovate. And the problem with a lot of companies as they grow is they start getting friction in terms of innovation. And it comes in a lot of different ways. Obviously, politics becomes part of it. The simple knowledge of, hey, I don't know if the company wants my ideas or not. Nobody's asked me, so I guess they don't. Some of that comes out. Also, I think people misinterpret how people innovate. So I tell people there's a small percentage of proactive innovators. That they just come up with ideas, boom. But that's not how most people do it. Most people need a problem. It's counterintuitive. Wait, If I leave the space open completely, you can't come up with any ideas. Yeah, that's it. I don't know where to start. If I tell you a problem, you can innovate. Yes, that's exactly it. And so that's the paradox here, I call it. So that's actually a good opportunity, getting back to your question about how can we be proactive? How can you be leading the company? The innovation group should be partnering with the business and the business leaders to say, what is a problem that you're trying to solve? And then let's do a challenge out there and ask people, hey, look, we're trying to get a better customer experience. What can we be doing to get a better customer experience? And guess what? You'll get a lot of people reacting to that. Because again, most people react to the problem, not the proactive people. So you get a lot of people engaged. And also, the other important piece here is an opportunity to educate your employees, which is really valuable. So not only are you with the challenge telling the business unit, particularly the business head, hey, I'm here to help you. I'm going to get the whole company focused on your problems, which the business head will obviously appreciate. But now you're teaching all the employees, hey, we're trying to improve the customer experience. We know the customer experience isn't where it should be, and we're trying to improve it. That's huge, because otherwise, if you don't do something like that, everybody like, company doesn't care about customers. Look at every day, people are yelling at me about the customer experience, and I guess they don't care. Now you've shown them, hey, this is really important. And beyond just teach them, and again, you can teach them, we've done this to help the customer experience, but we still don't think it's good enough. What else can we be doing? And here are the constraints. We can't spend extra money on personnel behind the counters, or we can't spend extra money doing this or that. We need to come in with solutions that are within this area. That's huge in educating people and helping them understand that you are concerned about customer experience and we're trying to do things. And then you're asking me, an employee, what I think. Wow. Now I feel like I'm part of the group. I'm in the in club because you've shared maybe an embarrassing thing. Our customer experience isn't good enough. And you've asked me for my advice. Now, the only thing is you got to be really careful. If you're asking me for my advice and then you completely ignore my idea, then obviously I'm going to be upset and think this was just a PR stunt. You didn't really want my idea. But if you come back, I put in an idea, you say, hey, Sam, did you realize we're already doing that? Oh, now you've educated me, and wow. Or we say legally, for some reason, we can't do this, or budget-wise, we can't do this. Explain to me why I can't. Now you're helping me think the right way. So now when I come up with another solution, it'll be, thinking about, oh, I didn't think about cost. Yeah, you're right. We can't just give everybody a new product that we can't afford that. So I think there's a real opportunity here to do innovation challenges, to get people involved, to get the business leaders thinking about it. Because if you're just sitting back and looking for ideas coming to you, the business leaders tend to think, I don't know what Sam does, really. Yeah, maybe he's getting ideas for patent filings. We got to get things done. They don't see the value in what you're doing. Yeah, maybe every now and then you get lucky and somebody comes in with an idea, and now you tell the business unit, hey, you had an idea. But it's not the same. And so that's why your question's really right on. And that's why we, in our program Inspire IP, we provide both what I call push ideas, where somebody just comes up with an idea, they can push it to you. But more importantly, we have innovation challenges in there that allow you to pull ideas specifically in areas that are important to the company.
Mhm. So it's focusing on the problem and not just looking for the solution, because I think a lot of people, they try to have ideas and then they just say they can't get all of these innovative ideas, but they have so many problems in their life. If they just focus on those,
Focus
or
on
in their business, like you said,
exactly.
that's where it is.
That's just, and again, if you can relate to a problem, then it's even easier to do. The other piece I tell people is innovation is funny. It's a game of getting rid of assumptions. I tell people when you have assumptions, there are little blinders on you. And the thing is, you get used to those blinders, so they don't seem like blinders. And there are assumptions that just it seem like universal in the company. Everybody assumes this. So that's the challenge. And I always use the example of Uber. It's a great example for me, blinders, right? Uber's a great idea. Hey, people have cars. They want to get some money. when I use my car, give people a ride, right? Very simple idea, straightforward. But I never would have come up with that idea. Why? Because I had that blinder that said, you can't do that because you need to be a taxi, you need a license. So you can't just use anybody's car. Uber said, I don't think we need a license. They do. And then I was like, sure, we can use people's cars. You don't need a license. I could never come up with that. I never would have come up with that solution because that blinder was fixed on me. So I wouldn't have come up with that solution. So I think that's where it's funny how assumptions are blinding you. When you take those assumptions off, you see the solution, it's obvious. And this is why I believe that a lot of people after the fact go, oh, that was obvious. That was obvious, Sam. That wasn't, you thought it, I thought everybody knew that. Was because you forgot you had a blinder on and you've taken away. So then it becomes obvious. Of course, Sam, can't believe you wouldn't have thought of using your own car or people's cars to give people rides. That's obvious. After the fact, it's always obvious. Beforehand, with the blinders, you don't know.
Yeah, definitely. So you have to make sure that you're not blinded by any of your own assumptions and just...
Or the company assumptions, we don't do that, the things like that. You got to test them because the other thing that's hard is nobody ever tells you assumptions have changed. The world has changed. You don't know. You just think, oh, to do that it's too costly. Maybe now all of a sudden it's not too costly. You don't want to be that company not looking at that idea because it's too costly and miss the fact that the cost has gone down now. And it's very much practical.
Definitely. So what strategies do you recommend for organizations to maximize internal innovation and encourage employees to contribute the ideas?
The first thing is you got to make it clear to employees that you want their ideas, right? That it's very hard for an employee to give an idea if you don't make it clear and you don't have a process. Make a formal process to it. With Inspire IP, we have a formal process that allows you to collect ideas from employees. Now, some of the things we're adding to it is AI, because a lot of people find it very tedious, difficult to document their idea and to fully build out their idea. And so now we have what we call an inventor assistant, which will interact with you to help get your idea, flush it out, and build it out, and make it much simpler for you to share your idea. That's a key component here of that. Getting that AI to help you, and particularly your inventors, share their ideas is one very effective tool, along with having a process. Also, the other piece is we talked about having challenges to get ideas in the areas that you want them. I also encourage people, there's a temptation to what I call going to the deep end of the pool. Be careful about jumping into the deep end of the pool. With innovation, it's sometimes easier to start with a challenge. If you haven't been doing it, start with a challenge so you know how to process ideas. Because when you start opening up to any ideas, they could be very complex in terms of who would be the right person. When I was working at AT&T, for example, we had somebody talk about truck flaps. I was like, I'm used to wireless devices, all this truck flaps. I don't know. Who do I need to go to within the company to talk about trucks and it gets complicated. Research these things. That's why I say start out focused and then build your experience, your network out so that you can very effectively then respond to questions. Now, we also have the ability within our product to use AI to help you analyze the ideas too. So that can make it easier for you to understand how does it fit in with your existing portfolio if you're doing patents. If it's ideas, have I looked at this idea before? And is it new? And if it wasn't new, what did we decide? So you can do that whole process. Because it's really, when you start driving ideas, it can take a lot of time. You want a system that allows you to manage that flow very effectively. And there's basic little things that we address, given my experience of understanding that inventors always want to know what's going on with their idea. And so providing that information is really critical. So there's a lot of little things like that sound trivial, but having every inventor calling you up once a week saying, hey, how's my idea going? Where is it now? Is tedious. If you have a system, and obviously Inspire IP can provide you that system, you utilize AI to help get good ideas, get them process it effectively, you can really drive your patent portfolio and grow your patent portfolio. Or if you're just trying to do ideas to build out the company more efficiently and more effectively, you can really get a lot of ideas going that way. I always tell people there's no shortage of great ideas. We're just not tapping into our employees and getting them to share effectively.
Yeah, definitely. I completely agree with having systems, especially for idea creation, because I think systems are one of the crucial backbones for any business to
It's about
innovate.
process, right? It's about
Yeah.
process and reassuring people that you have a process. This random, well, tell your boss. So if you have an idea, tell your boss. Your boss, guess what? Your boss is focused on your group doing whatever, their objectives are. And you come up with an idea that's different. Your boss is going to be like, I don't know what to do with this. Say, I'm just focusing on what we need to do.
So, how is AI changing the landscape of intellectual property management, and what tools do you believe are essential for organizations to leverage?
So it's changing in a big way. And like any very powerful tool, there's two camps, right? Those people who feel like, no, AI is not a good thing for intellectual property. And those who are thinking, this is the best thing since sliced bread. And so you got to understand, like any good technology, like the internet, all these things, people are very passionate about it. But like I said, we utilize it for capturing the ideas from inventors, use it for PQAI, the prior art search engine. Using a Boolean search engine is very hard. What is the right word for a cell phone? Is it a mobile phone, wireless device, blah, 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 blah. Professional searchers doing very complex queries to get to the right thing. Whereas now with AI, we can take your little description of your idea and now very effectively find anything out there that's related to your idea. So that's huge in terms of helping inventors be more effective. AI, I think we're starting to see it come in also now with analyzing your portfolio and ideas and how do they fit in and all that. We use a lot of capabilities there to make it very effective for the IP team to decide on what to pursue and what not to pursue and how to pursue it. And then you have obviously the AI drafting tools, and those are getting very good and saving a lot of time. And I think a lot of corporations should be thinking about that. If not them using it directly, asking their law firms, are you using AI to draft your applications? Because, it's going to save them a lot of time, very effective. Now, it doesn't, at the point where we are at right now with AI, a patent application drafted by AI still needs an experienced patent attorney to review it and look at it and I'll say polish it. It definitely can get a first draft very effectively.
So AI is like your junior within this industry as well.
That's right. It is definitely like the junior. How they're using AI for hiring. And it just shows you how AI is coming into all these different industries and changing things. And like you said, it's starting at the bottom and working its way up. And they are very effective tools. I think of it as catalysts. They're a catalyst for innovation. In that prior episode, it was a catalyst for hiring. Just very effective.
Definitely. As long as you're using it effectively as well and you have systems to use it and essentially.
You just need to be careful that it's not necessarily doing a final product. As we've talked about, everybody talks about hallucinations. Big mistakes can happen with AI. And so that's why you need to know your area, you need to know how you're using it, and you need to review it.
Definitely. So when should organizations consider protecting their ideas with patents, and what factors should they take into account during this decision-making process?
I think an important piece here is it's never too early to start thinking about patents. That's a critical piece here. So from the very beginning, you should be thinking about patents. I think there's a tendency to forget them a little bit later on. You get started, you have a few patents, and then you forget. A lot of things go on as you're going. I think you got to keep thinking about patents and constantly have a routine to look at them. That's where having a system to capture ideas and then manage your patent portfolio is very critical to any company. And I know it seems like overhead because it's like long-term planning, but I tell people it's the foundation to your house. So yeah, you can keep building up on your house, but if you have a bad foundation, it's going to catch up to you. And also keep in mind, I tell people IPO, initial public offering, no, that's not what it stands for. It stands for intellectual property opportunity. Everybody's going to come with their patents against you when you announce your IPO. So just be aware that you might want to have a portfolio. That won't stop you. If a troll is coming at you, that doesn't stop it. But in terms of your competitors and other people, it's going to be very important to have that.
So start early and have a system to keep on track.
Start early, have a system, be proactive, use innovation challenges to get more ideas than just sitting back and waiting for them. Establish your role in terms of the company and how the innovation group or the IP group can help the company and the different departments. And then be cognizant of your patents and how they're building. We used to say you're getting property around the lake. The lake is maybe the core idea. You can't always get the core idea, but you can get property around the lake, and that's incredibly valuable. And so keep in mind as you're building out your patent portfolio where your lake property is, you can leverage it in various ways.
Definitely. So what are the key components of a successful innovation ecosystem within a corporation? And how can leaders foster this environment?
The key components is, again, you need to let people know that you want ideas, right? You need to make sure that you're cognizant that innovation is messy. And most of the time, you're not going to get an idea that's polished completely. It's going to need refinement. It needs investigation and stuff like that. It's fragile, easy to kill ideas. So you need to put it in a protective environment. That's why you typically don't have it the group that where the idea came up. You usually put into a separate sort of, I'll call it incubator group to help flush out the idea, have a team that's used to working with new ideas. You usually have to, with a new idea, figure out, are there legal issues? Are there cost issues? Are there various things that come up? You have to many times change it a little bit. I know I work with a number of ideas where I'll call it the color. The color was one, the inventor said the color should be blue. You take it to the marketing group. The marketing group says, no, it's got to be red. We change it to red because the other thing is people think innovation is about going around the company. And that is the worst thing possible. I think of innovation as ideas that are too risky for the company to handle. The company can only handle a certain level of risk. Because beyond that risk, the companies look at, there's too much risk. We got limited budget. We just can't do that. It's like venture capital. They're not a venture capital group. So the goal of the innovation group is to take these ideas and bring down the risk level to a level where the company's comfortable with it and then put it into the regular channels. Because otherwise, the people who think, I'm going to develop a product and I'm just going to go around the company, because they don't get it. And guess what? You don't have a manufacturing, you don't have a sales channel, you don't have customer support. You're building a whole new company. Maybe that's what needs to be done here. But most of the time, it's much easier to incorporate right into the company. So I think a lot of times innovation groups get into this serve. The whole company doesn't get it. We get it, but nobody else gets it. They're stupid. And then, of course, you get to that point when all of a sudden they need the company's help. And now the people you've called stupid, you're asking for help. Guess what? You're not going to get any help. Well, instead, engage them. Get the idea, the risk level down, engage them. And like I said in the example, you think it's supposed to be blue. The inventor thinks it should be blue, but the marketing group who you're trying to give it to wants it red. Well, I'm sorry, you got to compromise. That's what, to get people to do things, you got to compromise. So say, okay, let's do it red. Really think it should be blue, but we'll humor you. Let's do it red and see how it goes. And then we can tell you, I told you. So that's, I think, a key thing to get the innovation piece go. The other thing you got to be careful about is because innovation sometimes seems obvious, people also use innovation as an opportunity to fire people or to punish people. So an idea comes up and somebody says, instead of doing this, we should have done this. And it just makes the whole process go better. And people go, wow, that's a brilliant idea. Hey, who's in charge of that department? Sam is. He's terrible. He didn't see that idea? Oh, he's terrible. Let's get rid of him. Let me tell you, as soon as people see, let's see, one of Sam's employees had a great idea and Sam got demoted or he got fired. Wow, I don't need any great ideas coming from my group. If you have any ideas, don't put them in. So that's what happens here. If you start tying it into management appraisal, then it's going to cause problems. I'm not saying you ignore that, but I'm saying you got to be cognizant that says, okay, let's not react right away to Sam's employee doing something that maybe should have been obvious, or Sam didn't fund it or whatever. Later on, we'll maybe adjust things. But if you react right away, people will put the dots together and you will not get any more ideas coming because the supervisors, the managers will all realize that innovation is risky for them and they don't want that.
Oh.
Innovation is messy. There's no way around it. It is messy. And this is where you try and keep the mess down to a reasonable level.
Definitely. So you have to innovate and also be diplomatic at the same time to ensure that your innovation.
Right. You just have to be reasonable about how you work with innovation. So, yeah, just cognizant. You're trying to get the risk level down. You're working with the company, not against the company. Things that seem obvious after the fact aren't always obvious when you're working in the company, when you're working in a department with a lot of things going on, with a lot of priorities. So you've got to be careful that way. But this will inspire people, get people excited, really help your hiring. People want to come into an organization where the people say, this is exciting. We're doing new things. You get to try new things. Employees don't want to come in and find out, no, we do the same thing. We do the same thing. Or any decisions that are made by upper management, don't worry about it. That's not the environment that people want to hire into. That's not the environment people want to stay at either. I believe that people are passionate about things, and if you can link into their passion, then they enjoy their job. They'll find it more interesting. And we've done that. We've done a couple of studies on employees, asking them about innovation challenges. And their reaction was, hey, Sam, we love it. It's a lot of fun. We can't always participate in every challenge. We don't know that area, but it gives us something to talk about at lunch. Rather than our regular job, we get to talk about these new things. It's fun to see what's going on. And then when you celebrate the ideas that come in, and at the same time, you can always do stories on, hey, Sam came up with this idea. It seemed like it was a good idea. It turned out we couldn't do it. I think people like to hear those stories. They're like, okay, yeah, it's reasonable. So you can use this as an opportunity to educate people and make people realize that not every idea works. It's hard.
So it creates a more fulfilling work environment for everyone.
Exactly.
So reflecting on your career, what are some of the most valuable lessons that you've learned about innovation and IP that you would share with aspiring entrepreneurs?
I think, like I said, the one thing was learning that when you come up with an idea and somebody already has that idea, that's not a failure. It's an opportunity for learning and appreciation. That was an important one. The other thing is I really found that while I can come up with ideas on my own, having a team or other people to interact with really helps in terms of refining the idea and making it better. And I found, and I looked at also some studies, that sort of support this, that a team of about 3 or 4 is the right number. Getting more than that, you have too many people. It's like a committee, and 2 people, it's not enough of a perspective. Obviously, you want to get people that have a little different perspectives on things. 3 Sam Zellners is not going to make a very valuable group. But people with different backgrounds, people with different perspectives, either within the company or whatever, that can really help make an idea, refine an idea in a very good way. And also keep in mind, when you're doing patents, you're throwing a dart out in the future. Typically, patents can be 5, 10 years out. So you're really throwing a dart out there. So you want to have assumptions about how the world might change and how you might want to. And that's where it's really helpful to have other people say, couldn't people be doing it this way? Maybe we should do it this way. What kind of things would we want to control? Okay. And usually as an inventor, you come up, one of my ideas was about controlling things based on your location. And I had it focused on the heating and air system. Somebody said, why couldn't you use the security system? When you leave the house, the security system. Oh, yeah, that's a good idea. What about the water? What about, there's lots of other things you can do. Inventors tend to get focused on the one problem, the one application. With more people, that you can expand that out. And that's really helpful for a good path.
So having a good group of people around you that can challenge and balance your perspective
is very useful. Again, I think a lot of times you come up with the idea on your own, and then you bring the seed of the idea to your little group. And food also helps. Food also helps with the brainstorming. Yeah, it makes for good lunchtime conversations.
Definitely. So what trends do you foresee in the field of intellectual property and innovation over the next few years, and how should organizations prepare for these changes?
As we talked about, AI is coming on in a very big way, and you should be thinking about AI and how it works. I think another important trend is this whole aspect of now we're having maybe workers that are not full-time workers. We're having help and things like that. And so you definitely need to think about, okay, how do I have part-time help come in? How do I make sure I protect the ideas that, or capture the ideas that these people bring into the company? I think it's going to be important, particularly with remote working. It makes it even harder to have these people. And also, I think with the speed of things that go on, you want to figure out how to partner with your customers and understand how can I take ideas working with my customers and quickly get them recognized and people working and implementing them quickly, because it's a competitive environment. And once somebody has an idea, ideas float very quickly and can be implemented very quickly. So a little bit of a who gets there first is definitely going to be true more and more now.
Definitely. So speed is very important.
Speed is very important. Cliche, but it is very important. And then having the right structures, like I said, if you're going to engage people, making sure you have an agreement that says, I own ideas that you might come up with related to the work you do. That's it. That's an important one.
Definitely. So thank you so much, Sam, for coming on the podcast and sharing all of your insights with our audience.
Thank you for this opportunity. I really appreciate the dialogue here. It was a lot of fun. Thank you. And I hope your viewers, if you're looking for some intellectual property, will look at inspireip.com. And if you want to just check your ideas and see if they're original, projectpq.ai, a free tool to help you do prior art searching. Thank you.